365. Shake my hand and a good morning. Top of the morning to you, YouTube viewers. I appreciate you. If you're listening on Spotify, Anchor, I appreciate you. If you got the link from our Twitter, I appreciate you. We are back with another episode, but actually, technically speaking, the final episode of this book, right, of season one. So every time we do a book, we'll do a season, right, so that we can hold ourselves accountable by the end of the year to say, look, we actually did. We really did meet our goal. We really did, read all these books as we said we're going to at the beginning of the year. But if you're joining me, today is episode 12 of the podcast. We're looking at chapter 15, 16, right, and 17. Very, very short, very short chapters. And that is the end of this beautiful book, The Science of Getting Rich. And I've really enjoyed going through this book. For me, it's to be the fourth time. I believe so. I've enjoyed this format of going through it with you. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. But more importantly, guys, I think the proof is in the pudding now. I think this idea that I kept stating last year within my own academy, that all you need in your life is one chapter a day, at the most minimum, one chapter a day, and you can actually finish a good book. I think this is it. This is literally the evidence, right? We've come to the end of this beautiful journey. Just so you guys are aware, our first reading in the podcast, chapter 1, was on the 13th of January. Today is the 23rd. So in 10 days, we finished the book. We can do 2 books in a month, and I'm very excited about it because I've already got the first 3 or 4 books lined up. You'll have no idea how excited I am about the third book, and I'm excited about the next book we're going to do, but the third book is so special to me, and I'll explain why in due course. But yeah, without further ado, let's finish our beautiful book. So we're going to start off with chapter 15. Just a quick recap as usual. Yesterday, we were looking at the impression of increase. Everything you do, everyone you meet, every conversation you have, the key thought of all your efforts must be to convey to their minds the impression of increase. This podcast is me trying to convey to your mind the impression of increase, that it's okay to want more out of life and to go after it. There is just a scientific, specific way of how you go about it, right? So that's what we've been doing. And then we came across the law of perpetual increase through the parable of the talents, right? The law of perpetual increase says the little that you have, work on it, multiply it. You got $2, make it $4, $4, make it $8, $8, make it 16. Eventually compound interest in finance markets, but also in life, right? Your efforts will also start to compound. The law of perpetual increase simply says I can only double or multiply something in motion, something that you're already putting to work. You remember in the previous chapter, it says, don't dream, don't live in La La Land only. Start where you are right now. All right. So that's it. And then we covered a lot of things about how to go about doing this. People go where they are given increase. So you want to be a source of increase yourself, whether it's intellectually, how you go about your business, etc., etc. And then he ended with the golden rule of Jones: what I want for myself, I want for everybody. And that's really the ethos of this podcast. What I want for myself, I want for everyone. I'm not a health expert. I don't think I live the most healthiest life. I don't think I have the most balanced diet in the world. I am not a fitness expert. I am not an entertainment expert. I am not a social media content producing expert. So I will not be even touching on these things. What I'm doing here is just walking you through big financial principles, wealth building stuff that I've had to learn, master, and go through. All right. So what I have, I'll give. What I want for myself, I want for you. And that's what we're doing. Right. So chapter 15, the advancing man. Chapter 15, the advancing man. Sorry, I apologize. I'm going to sniff a bit. My hands seemingly still have a little bit of chlorine residue. I was putting some chlorine and it's actually causing some friction in my nose, right? But I'm sure you guys can hear me clearly. The advancing man. What I've said in the last chapter applies to the professional and the wage earner, as well as to a person who is engaged in mercantile business or entrepreneurs. Mercantile, by the way, is just old English. Mercantiles were one of the first people who actually advanced capitalism, just straight after feudalism, with what we call mercantile capitalism. But it really involved a lot of boats, trading, so trading of goods, exportation, importation, right? So that mercantile era. And there's a long story about it after the wars, about how someone actually got extremely rich during that time. But maybe we'll get to that another time. But whenever it says mercantile, my mind just goes to entrepreneurs, right? No matter what your profession, if you give increase of life to others and make them sensible of this gift, they will be attracted to you and you will get rich. The physician who holds the vision of himself as a great and successful healer and who works toward the complete realization of that vision with faith and purpose will come into such close touch with the infinite that he will phenomenally be successful. Patients will come to him in throngs. No one has a greater opportunity to carry into effect the teachings of this book than a practitioner of medicine. It does not matter which of the various schools he may belong to, because the principle of healing is common to all of them and may be reached by all. The advancing man in medicine who holds to a clear mental image of himself as successful and who obeys the laws of faith, purpose, and gratitude will cure every curable case he undertakes, no matter what remedies he may use. In the field of religion, the world cries out for clergy who can teach their hearts the true science of abundant life. A person who masters the details of science of getting rich, together with the allied sciences of being well, of being great, and of winning love, and who teaches these details from the pulpit will never lack for a congregation. This is the gospel that the world needs. It will give increase of life. People will hear it gladly and will give liberal support to the person who brings to them. What is now needed is a demonstration of science of life from the pulpit. We want preachers who can not only tell us how, but who in their own persons will show us how. We need the preacher who is rich, healthy, great, and beloved to teach us how to attain these things. And when a person comes, he will find a numerous and loyal following. The same is true for the teacher who can inspire the children with faith and purpose of the advancing life. That person will never be out of a job. And teachers who have this faith and purpose can give it to their pupils. They cannot help giving it to them if it is a part of their own life and practice. What is true of the teacher, preacher, physician is also true of the lawyer, dentist, real estate person, insurance agent, and everybody. The combined mental and personal action I have described is invaluable. It cannot fail. Every man and woman who follows these instructions steadily, perseveringly, and to the letter will get rich. The law of increase of life is as mathematical certain in its operation as the law of gravitation. Getting rich is an exact science. The wage earner will also find this to be true. Do not feel that you have no chance to get rich because you are working where there is no visible opportunity for advancement. Where wages are small and the cost of living high, which is for a lot of people, form your clear mental vision of what you want and begin to act with faith and purpose. Do all the work you can do every day and do each piece of work in a perfectly successful manner. Put the power of success and purpose of getting rich into everything you do. However, do not do this merely with the idea of carrying favor with your employer in the hope that he or those above you will see your good work and advance you. It is unlikely that they will do so. The person who is merely a good worker, filling his place to the very best of his ability and satisfied with that, is valuable to his employer. It is not in the employer's interest to promote him. He is worth more where he is. To secure advancement, something more is necessary than to be too large for your place. The person who is certain to advance is the one who is too big for his place and who has a clear concept of what he wants to be, who knows that he can become what he wants to be, and who is determined to be what he wants to be, right? So that's that thinking. We're coming full circle. This idea of there's a science to doing this particular part, and he's saying to secure advancement, right? Something more is necessary than to be too large for your place. The person who is certain to advance is the one who is too big for his place, who has a clear concept of what he wants, definite purpose, who knows that he can become what he wants, unshakable faith, and who is determined to be what he wants to be, right? Do not try more than fill your present place. with a view of pleasing your employer. Do it with the idea of advancing yourself. Hold the faith and purpose of increasing during your work hours, after work hours, and before work hours. So meditate upon that idea that we spoke about earlier on. Hold the faith and purpose of increase during the working hours, after working hours, and before working hours. Hold it in such a way that every person who comes into contact with you, whether foreman, fellow worker, or social acquaintance, will feel the power of purpose radiating from you. You only get that by being completely obsessed with your goal. Affirmations, right? Get those going. Hold the faith and purpose so that everyone will get the sense of advancement and increase from you. People will be attracted to you, and if there is no possibility of advancement in your present job, you will very soon see an opportunity to take another. There is a power which never fails to present opportunity to the advancing man who is moving in obedience to law. God cannot help helping you if you act in a certain way. You must do so in order to help yourself. There is nothing in your circumstance or in the industrial situation that can keep you down. If you cannot get rich working from a conglomerate, you can get rich on a 10-acre farm. And if you begin to move in a certain way, you will certainly escape from the clutches of conglomerates and get to the farm or wherever else you wish to be. If 1,000 of its employees would enter upon the certain way, a company would soon be a bad plight. It would have to give its workers more opportunity or go out of business. Nobody has to work for inadequate pay. The company can keep people in so-called hopeless conditions only so long as there are those who are too ignorant to know the science of getting rich, or too intellectually slothful to practice it. Slothful here is, we've done the podcast, we've done book 1, we've broken this stuff down, we are literally at the end, and if you've been slothful, here are the signs. You still don't have a gratitude book that I asked you to do 3 or 4 or 5 episodes ago, because a gratitude book keeps you in line with the harmonious energy. If you're slothful, here's another sign. You still haven't mapped out your definite purpose, right? You still don't know what you want. It's not mapped out yet. You haven't really thought about it. You want to get rich. You don't know how much. You don't know. You have no idea, because it's not yet down on pen and paper, which means you haven't had an intimate conversation with yourself about what you want. Slothful is, even if you have done this, you are not being religious about it. You are not keeping that thought persistently present in your mind. You're not doing a good job of watering the seed. If you don't water the seeds of doubt, your current circumstances will grow as weeds and take over. The mind is like a field. I forgot who once said that, right? A field will produce and multiply whatever you plant in it. You don't get apples from a farm field if you did not plant apples. Right? You can get weeds, right? And blow dust seeds of random stuff that birds drop. But if you are to actively start to plant your wealth creation plan, if you're to actively start to plant your vision for yourself, if you're to actively start to do these things, then for sure, you will not be part of the intellectually slothful man, that he's talking about. Because either you are ignorant to know the science of getting rich, and we now know it, or you're too intellectually slothful to practice it. Practice it, please. Begin this way of thinking and acting, right? And your faith and purpose will allow you to quickly see any opportunity to better your condition. Such opportunities will speedily come, because the supreme power working in everything and working for you will bring opportunities to you. Do not wait for an opportunity to be all that you want to be. When an opportunity to be more than you are now is presented and you feel impelled toward it, take it. It will be the first step toward a still greater opportunity. There is no such things possible. There is no such thing possible in this universe as a lack of opportunities for a person who is living the advancing life. It is inherent in this constitution of the cosmos that all things shall be for the advancing man and work together for his good. And he must certainly get rich if he acts and thinks in the certain way. So let wage earning men and women study this book with great care and enter with confidence upon the course of action I prescribe it will not fail. And that's the end of chapter 15. You know, the advancing man. The advancing man is typically someone, advancing man and woman is someone who's definitely just going to go out and do the stuff in the book. It's been laid out. It is clear. Think in a certain way, act in a certain way, put your will towards your thinking and acting. And then when you start to get there, what else do we got? We move to efficient action, right? Where you are right now in your environment, not later, right? So if I was to switch this to trading, start where you are. Maybe where you need to be right now is still mastering the charts. Go back to my course, redo the classes where you are. Yes, you got $100 US. Go 0.01 on that lot size. Start where you are. Build where you are. There's no one who's going to give you $2,000 US as capital to test your skill. Start where you are. You're delaying your own growth, right? So this is what we get from chapter 15. At the end of the day, the person who acquires the science of getting rich, according to the author, is what he calls the advancing man or woman. The advancing man or woman is just simply put someone who's going to go and actually practice the stuff that we've been talking about in the last give or take 12 episodes of this podcast. Now, chapter 16, some cautions and concluding observations. Chapter 16. Many people will scoff at the idea that there is an exact science of getting rich. Many people will laugh at this idea that there is an exact science of getting rich, holding the impression that the supply of wealth is limited. They will insist that social and governmental institutions must be changed before a considerable number of people acquire wealth. But this is not true. It is true that the existing governments keep the masses in poverty, but this is because the masses do not think and act in a certain way. If the masses begin to move forward according to my suggestions, neither governments nor industrial systems could check them. All systems would have to be modified to accommodate this forward movement. If the people had the advancing mind and had the faith that they can become rich, nothing could possibly keep them in poverty. Individuals may enter upon as the certain way at any time and under any government and make themselves rich. And when a considerable number of individuals do so under any government, they will cause the system to be modified so as to open the way for others. The more men who get rich on the competitive plane, the worse for others. Capitalism is a beautiful, example of that. The more men who get rich on the competitive plane, the worse for others. The more who get rich on a creative plane, the better for others. The economic slavation of the masses can only be accomplished by encouraging a large number of people to become rich by practicing the scientific method set down in this book. These people will show others the way and inspire them with the desire for real life, with the faith that it can be attained, with the purpose to attain it. For the present, however, it is enough to know that neither the government under which you live nor the capitalistic or competitive system of industry can keep you from getting rich. When you enter upon the creative plane of thought, you will rise above all these things and become a citizen of another kingdom. But remember that your thoughts must stay on the creative plane. You are never to regard the supply as limited or to act in a competitive manner, right? Whether you fall into old ways of thought, correct yourself instantly, because when you are in the competitive mind, you have lost cooperation with the supreme power. Do not spend any time in planning how you will meet possible emergencies in the future. That's anxiety, by the way, right? That's worry. Like worrying about something that really hasn't happened is literally a complete exhaustion of good energy, right? It's a terrible, terrible habit that I used to have, that human beings normally generally carry, right? Do not spend any time planning how you will meet possible emergencies in the future. You should be concerned with doing today's work in a perfectly successful manner, efficient action. Don't stress about tomorrow, efficient action about today. Not with emergencies which may arise tomorrow. You can attend to them as they come. Do not concern yourself with questions of how you will surmount obstacles which may loom upon your business horizon. Ignore these questions unless you can plainly see that your course must be altered today in order to avoid those obstacles. No matter how tremendous an obstruction may appear at a distance, you will find that if you continue in the certain way, it will disappear as you approach it, or that a way over, through, or around it will appear. No possible combination of circumstances can defeat a man or woman who is proceeding to get rich along strictly scientific lines. No man or woman who obeys the law can fail to get rich any more than can multiply 2 by 2 or fail to get 4. Fail to get 4. Give no anxious thought. None. No anxious thought to possible disasters, obstacles, panics, or unfavorable combinations of circumstances. There is a time enough to meet such things. All right? There's an absolute time enough to meet such things when they present themselves before you in the immediate present. You will find that every difficulty carries with it wherewithal of its overcoming. Guard your speech. Never speak of yourself, your affairs, or anything else in a discouraging way. Never admit the possibility of failure or speak in a way that implies failure is a possibility. Never speak of the times as being hard or for business conditions as being doubtful. Times may be hard and business doubtful for those who are in the competitive plane, but they can never be for you. You can create what you want and you are above fear. I just want to do a quick sound bite on this. Again, I am so serious about this. No one in my life, in my close proximity in my life, my team, my family, I shut down any type of thought that looks like it's going to fall over the edge. If someone tells me I'm dreaming too big, I've got this crazy idea that I'll be working on for the next 2 years. Crazy idea, right? That will put Africa literally at the map of digital or cryptocurrency, and 365 is going to lead that chart. It is an absolutely crazy idea. The few people that I've talked to about have been good enough because they understand me. They understand that I understand this, and that what I want to happen will always happen. You have to be religiously strict about that in your own life. If you've got no one in your life right now who generally can accept your vision, who generally can accept how big you dream, who generally can accept the things that you want to see, I suggest you talk to yourself out loud, reaffirm yourself, but never be caught in a situation where you are doubting the same thing you're trying to create, where you are negative about the same thing you're trying to acclaim, or allow that to come from outside circles, because it will delay you tremendously. You will actually convince yourself that it's not working. All right, so you can't do it. You can't mix oil and water, right? You just can't, right? So when others are having bad times and poor businesses, you will find the greatest opportunities. Practice, train yourself to think of and to look upon the world as something which is becoming, which is growing, and to regard seeming evil as only being that which is underdeveloped. Always speak in terms of advancement. Always speak in terms. To do otherwise is to deny your faith, and to deny your faith is to lose it. To do otherwise is to deny your faith, and to deny your faith is to lose it. Never allow yourself to feel disappointed. You may expect to have a certain thing at a certain time and not get into that time. This will seem to be a failure, but if you hold to your faith, you will find that failure is only apparent. Go in the certain way, and if you do not receive that thing, you will receive something so much better that you will see that the seeming failure was a prelude to a great success. A student of the science of getting rich had set his mind on making a certain business combination, which at the time seemed to him to be very desirable. He worked for some weeks to bring it about. When the crucial time came, the thing failed in perfectly inexplicable way. It was as if some unforeseen influence had been working secretly against him. He was not disappointed. On the contrary, he thanked God. He thanked God that his desire had been overruled and went steadily on with a grateful mind. In a few weeks, an opportunity so much better came his way that now he would not have made the first deal on any account. He saw that a mind which knew more than he knew had prevented him from losing the greater good by entangling himself with the lesser. That is the very seeming failure will work out for you. That is the very seeming failure will work out for you if you keep your faith, hold to your purpose, and have gratitude, and each day do all that you can be done that day. When you make a failure, it is because you have not asked enough. Keep on, and the larger thing than where you're seeking will certainly come to you. Remember this. You will not fail because you lack the necessary talent to do what you wish to do. If you go on as I have directed, you will develop all the talent that is necessary for doing your work. It is not within the scope of this book to deal with the science of cultivating talent. But don't worry, we got the books for that for the podcast. Don't worry, Napoleon Hill is next. We're coming there, how to cultivate these things. But it is as certain, as simple as the process of getting rich. However, do not hesitate or waver for fear that when you come to a place where you will fail for lack of ability, keep right on, and you will come to that place. The ability will be furnished to you. The same source of ability which enabled the untaught Lincoln to do the greatest work in government ever accomplished by a single man is open to you. You may draw upon the thinking mind to use in meeting the responsibilities which are laid upon you. Proceed in full faith. Study this book. That means if you've enjoyed season 1 of the podcast, get a copy of this book and read it again. It's my 4th time going through this book. Next year, I'm going to go through it again. If there's time at the end of the year, I'll go through it again. Right. Study the book. Make it a consistent companion until you've mastered all the ideas contained in it. While you are getting firmly established in this faith, you will do well to give up most recreations. I don't have time to meditate on my affirmations. Stop watching Netflix. Right. Give up most recreations and pleasures, and to stay away from places where conflicting ideas are advanced in lectures or sermons. Do not read pessimistic or conflicting literature. Do very little reading outside of the writers mentioned in the introduction. Spend most of your leisure time contemplating your vision, in cultivating gratitude, and in reading this book. It contains all you need to know for the science of getting rich, and you'll find all the essentials summed up in the following chapter. And that is the end of chapter 16, which seems to be the end of the book. Chapter 17 is just a page, and we're going to read it together right now. It's just a page, and chapter 17, the title is a summary of the science of getting rich, right? So I like this because it lays it out step by step, what we kind of like got from each chapter, and it means I don't have to do the heavy lifting here. But I hope you guys have thoroughly enjoyed this. Let's quickly read chapter 17, and then we close our podcast. We close season 1. We've knocked out 1 full book in 10 days. Tomorrow, no breaks. We're jumping on immediately, right, to this beautiful book. I'll tell you an amazing short story about this book, about me and my father in this book. It's extremely cultivating. As it says, George Clarkson, the richest man in Babylon, right? So my goal is that by the time my son is 18 years of age, I would have read this book to him about 50 times. So it's part of we were sneaking in chapters in his bedtime routine. You'll read about Pinocchio and Peter Pan, and he's been reading the Poldy books, and you'll read his Marvel comments, but there'll always be a chapter of the richest man of Babylon. This book, it's almost impossible after you'll see. It's 17 chapters. Right, the chapters are very rich, very, very rich. So we'll most likely do strictly 1 chapter a day so that we don't rush through the book. We really want to absorb. It's a step-by-step financial manual. You do what this man says, you solve it, right? So we've got really good books. Book number 3 is the most exciting thing. I only got confirmation about it yesterday. I've been looking for this book for almost 2 years. All right, the book was kept away for a very specific reason, and to finally get my hands on a copy is incredible, right? It hasn't arrived in South Africa, Grahamstown, the shipping, blah, 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 but I'm pretty sure by the time we're done with this book, that book would have arrived. in my hand. So I'm quite excited about that. Right, so chapter 17 of The Science of Getting Rich, the one-page summary of everything that we've been doing in the last 10 days together. There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. I mean, I don't want to do a soundbite after soundbite, but you already know this is extremely important. You already know that that thinking stuff is the certain way, so you get that thinking right. There is a specific type of thinking from which all things are made, the intelligent universe, and in which in its original state infiltrates, permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. You wanted to do that because in the other chapters you spoke about how eventually when you are in line with the intelligent substance causes things to move in the universe, people to come to you who are for you, who are for your vision. So there is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which all things in its original states permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. I just love that line. A thought in the substance produces the thing that is imagined by the thought. A thought in the substance produces the thing that is imagined by the thought. A person can form things in his thought by impressing his thought upon the formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. Now, in order to do this, a person must pass from the competitive to the creative mind. Otherwise, he cannot be in harmony with the formless intelligence, which is always creative and never competitive in spirit. A person can come into full harmony with the formless substance by entertaining a lively and sincere sense of gratitude for the blessing it bestows upon him. Gratitude unifies a person's mind to the thinking mind, so that an individual's thoughts are perceived by the formless substance. A person who can remain on the creative plane only by uniting himself with the formless intelligence through a deeper and continuous feeling of gratitude. An individual must form a clear, definite mental image of the things he wishes to have or become, and he must hold this mental image to his thoughts while being deeply grateful to the supreme power for granting him all of his desires. The person who wishes to get rich must spend his leisure hours in contemplating his vision and in earnest thanksgiving that his reality is being given to him. Too much stress cannot be laid on the importance of frequent contemplation of the mental image, coupled with unwavering faith and devout gratitude. This is the process by which the impression is given to the formless substance and the creative forces set in motion. Goodness gracious. The creative energy works through the established channels of natural growth, through present industrial and social order. All that is included in his mental image will surely be brought to the person who follows my instructions and whose faith does not waver. What he wants will come to him through the ways of established trade and commerce. A person must be active in order to receive his own when it is ready to come to him. He must more than fill his present place. He must keep in mind the purpose is to get rich through the realization of his mental image. He must do every day all that can be done that day, taking care of each act in a successful manner. He must give to every man a use value in excess of cash value he receives, so that each transaction makes for more life. And he must hold the advancing thought of that the impression of increase will be communicated to all with whom he comes in contact with. The men and women who practice the foregoing instruction will certainly get rich, and the riches they receive will be in exact proportion to the definiteness of their vision, the fixity of their purpose, the steadiness of their faith, and the depth of their gratitude. Man, I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped, guys. This is a beautiful summary. It's like, look, get this book. Please get a copy of this book. It's on eCandle, Amazon. I got a hard copy in one of the South African bookstores, bargain books at some point in time in my life. I bought 3 copies. This will be the most recent one that I got. Get this book. Please get this book. And then because you've done the podcast and you don't have time, if you don't want to go through chapter by chapter, chapter 17, the summary, it will keep you grounded throughout the year. Chapter 17 is worth reading every single day up until you know for a fact all the steps have been laid out. It starts with the thinking of things, where things are made of, and then a thought in that substance can produce the thing that is imagined. A person can form things in his thought by impressing it upon the intelligent substance, and then to do all of that, you have to be linked in a harmonious relationship with the intelligent substance through the act of gratitude. So he talks about that. Gratitude unifies the person with that. And then he jumps to the next thing. You must form a clear and definite mental image of the things you wish to have. And then when you do that, you must remain grounded, deeply grateful. The person who wishes to get rich must spend all your free time, all your leisure hours meditating upon the thing that you want. He literally said, too much stress cannot be laid on the importance of frequent contemplation. It's not enough to think about this once a day. You have to do it all the time. Here's my hack. I told you guys, I recorded myself saying this out loud. I'm an earphones guy. Here's a set of earphones. Here's another earphones. Here's a headphones. I am listening to myself, affirming myself. Sometimes when I'm working on the charts and I don't want to listen to music, I'm just thinking about it. 743,000 US dollars. 743,000 US dollars. Aha, there's a supply. 743,000 US dollars. There's a demand. I am practically aligning myself in the right fitted business for me. Remember, he talks about being in the right place. I have found my right place, which is financial markets for me. That's what I do. I teach people how to trade, and I trade for myself and corporates. This is what I do. This is what I do. So I keep my thoughts in line with where I am, and I'm constantly growing, outgrowing my places. Outgrowing. I'm the only one I know of as a head educator for a training academy who does this. I'm outgrowing myself every year because the advancing man perpetually wants to see increase. The advancing man perpetually wants to push those boundaries for himself and for fellow others. So I am trying my best to be an example of this, and I'm pretty sure all of you can. Thank you so much for joining me for season 1 of the podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I really, a very good exercise, by the way, is to write the summary of getting rich in your own words. If you can write this out in your own words, you will see which steps you're missing and what you need to go back to. But 365, guys, we've finished the book. Tomorrow, season 2, episode 1 begins off The Richest Man of Babylon. It is an absolutely crucial book. Why? We've got the thinking right. We've now got the thinking right. So tomorrow, we're going to start to build on the practicalities of building wealth, the actual practical stuff. This was very practical, but this is now hands down. What can you do with what you have? Remember the parable of the talents. I'm talking fast because that last chapter got me so pumped, so pumped. I feel like rereading the book again. But the point is, this book tomorrow will slowly start to walk us through what we can do, right? How do we start to grow? Okay, so it's written in Old English, so we're going to have a lot of fun with some words that I probably can't pronounce. But we're going to start off with start thy purse to fatten. Then we're going to control expenditures. Then we're going to talk about making the gold multiply. Then we're going to guard the treasures from loss. Then we're going to make thy dwelling a profitable investment. Then we're going to talk about ensure a future income and then increase their ability to earn. The concept of making your money make money for you, right? And this book, honestly speaking, is a dead short, one of the best things ever written, right? So 365, see you tomorrow. Cheers.